Whenever I think of crippling addiction, it really brings me back to my childhood. Specifically, to one of my favorite episodes from one of the most iconic TV shows back in that time, Drake and Josh. The first episode of season 2, called The Bet, features both boys competing to see who can stay clean for the longest. And fun fact, this episode was originally going to be about them battling their cocaine and heroin addictions, but Nickelodeon felt it was too dark, so they had to change it to video games and junk food. This episode aired all the way back in March of 2004. Yeah, over 20 years ago. Just a month after Facebook was first launched. My God. And with the episode being that old, it's definitely time to take a look back at this classic to see how well it holds up. As always, if you guys like this video, please be sure to give us a like and maybe consider subscribing to join the Agro Army. And if you have any other episodes or shows you'd like me to cover, let me know down in the comments. The Bet has been highly requested for a while now, so I'm definitely excited to finally be covering this one. Alright, let's dive in. In the cold open, Drake and Josh talk about how they can sometimes be competitive with each other, and mention how just the other day, they had a contest to see who could hold their breath the longest. Josh says he lost consciousness after about 2 minutes, and Drake admits that he was breathing through his nose the entire time. You can definitely lose brain cells and even get permanent brain damage from passing out due to lack of oxygen. Was it worth it? I don't think it was. Cut to the living room and kitchen, where Josh is playing video games and Drake is seen trying to give himself infinite cavities by eating sugary cereal with soda instead of milk, with some sugar on top for good measure. Sorry, not some sugar, the entire bowl of sugar. Josh is busy playing video games with a PS2 controller before switching over to his Game Boy Advance SP. Their mom then says Megan is playing at a friend's house down the street and it's about to downpour, so one of them needs to walk the umbrella over to Megan and walk her home. But they're both too busy drowning in ecstasy to hear a goddamn word she says. The theme song plays, and then we see Megan enter the front door completely drenched from the rain. And even though they added rain and lightning, you can clearly see that it's nice and sunny outside. I mean, come on guys, it's pretty funny. Megan's pissed that no one came and brought her the umbrella, and when mom gets home a moment later, she's pissed as well.
What up with that? You were too busy to go get your sister, but you weren't too busy to play video games all day.
Josh.
Or to sit around swallowing 20 pounds of junk food.
Drake.
And yeah, I'm just gonna say it. Right off the bat, this episode is faker than Kylie Jenner's titties. Drake is never shown eating candy or junk food obsessively in other episodes. In fact, Drake's character can pretty much be summed up into 2 major passions: loving music and loving girls. He can usually be seen chilling with his guitar or making out with some random babes, not really snacking, so it would really have made more sense for him to battle a hoe addiction in this episode, but whatever. And you know what? No, not whatever. For that matter, Josh isn't really seen playing video games outside this episode either. He's usually being a nerd and studying. Even in the cold open of this episode, he's studying. Or he's watching Oprah or something. Okay, let's relax. So the mom grounds both of them for the night and sends them upstairs, and they both confront one another about their addictions.
Ooh, look at me, I'm Josh. I play video games all day long. Ooh, I'm Drake. Nutrition? Not for me. I'm just gonna eat me a big old bag of cheese balls. Which you're allergic to.
And yeah, pretty much the only ingredient in cheese balls that you can be allergic to is dairy. It's milk. But Josh is literally drinking some milk in the opening scene of this episode, so what the hell is his allergy? Also, vacuuming your tongue with the handheld vacuum is wild. That goes on the floor, man. Why not get some mouthwash instead? They argue about whose addiction is worse, and Josh claims that video games have value because they actually improve hand-eye coordination.
That's why I now have cat-like reflexes.
Yeah,
dead cat-like reflexes.
Josh claims he could quit video games a lot easier than Drake could quit junk food, and the iconic bet is born. The next morning, they make it official by signing some fake legal documents drafted up by Megan, which is pretty sus because Megan already likes to mess with them on a normal basis, and they actively pissed her off less than 24 hours before by leaving her out in the rain to walk home alone. She could be making them sign over their kidneys in that thing, and they should be a lot more careful.
And whoever caves must die. Must die? His hair pink.
This is honestly funny as hell, and it's a repeated joke in this episode, but if I'm being a buzzkill, I gotta point out that dye your hair is spelled differently than die like death. So their confusion before they turn the page doesn't really make any sense. Later on, Josh is angrily doing a puzzle, already starting to crash out mere hours after not being able to play video games. Megan suggests he tries exercising instead, and he says, "This is no time for jokes, Megan." And I gotta be honest, that feels like kind of a mean fat joke for the script to make against Josh. He's only a kid here. I mean, it's no wonder he goes on to lose 100 pounds while abusing amphetamines while they're cooking him up like that. Let's be real. He starts playing with the buttons on the microwave and the blender to cope with missing video games, which is kind of funny. Drake wanders in and calls him pathetic, and then starts molesting some cupcakes and cheese balls due to how badly he misses eating junk food. The next morning, Drake wakes up with a horrifying rash all over his face. They call over their across the street neighbor, who's also a doctor, to take a look at him, and he tells everyone that Drake's body is physically withdrawing from the lack of junk food.
I normally advise my patients to stay away from junk food, but in light of your face, I suggest that you eat some, perhaps a doodle cake. $300.
And I love that he actually wrote what appears to be a real prescription for doodle cakes. Who's Drake gonna hand that into? The pharmacist? Josh starts to celebrate that he's about to win the bet since Drake has to eat junk food, when suddenly Megan walks over with a package for Josh, which came from Grammy.
It's a Gamesphere! It's spherical! Spherical!
And no lie, I wanted a Gamesphere so bad when I was a kid. That shit just seemed cool as hell. Though I did find it sus that Drake says the Gamesphere doesn't come out for another 3 months. Josh just says, never underestimate Grammy. But no, seriously, how? Did Grammy slob someone's knob at the gaming company? How did she get her balls on this 3 months early? And for that matter, if the game system hasn't been released yet, wouldn't there be no games released for it? Yet Josh plugs it in like he's about to start playing immediately.
Oh man, I gotta plug this in.
Good, because the second you do, you lose the bet.
Why would Drake say that? He was literally about to win the bet, and he stopped Josh himself. Does he want to win or not? We get a quick scene of Drake and Josh in school when Drake tries to hide his hideous rash from everyone. Behind a book that keeps changing colors, might I add, from brown to black, one shot to the next. How hard is it to remember what color book he had? While Josh just hallucinates about video games in class, seeing the teacher as a video game character. This is officially time for rehab. Professional help is needed at this point. Come on now. Back at home, the parents are talking mad shit about Drake and Josh's bet, and they both think their biological child is the mentally weaker one who will succumb to the addiction and relapse first. So mom bets against Drake and dad bets against Josh, and they make it official by signing Megan's fake legal documents.
Loser dies?
His hair pink.
Alright, it's one thing if Drake and Josh don't recognize that dye is spelled differently. The parents should full well know that dye is spelled D-Y-E when we're talking about hair. Josh decides he can't take it anymore and sobriety just isn't for him. So he decides to say fuck the bet and play some Gamesphere. But Megan stops him. She says all he has to do to win is sabotage Drake and he'll get him to crack first. Cut to her giving the same advice to Drake about sabotaging Josh while he puts some kind of ointment on his face face rash. Gross. Which brings us to the most iconic scene in the episode, where Josh has transformed their bedroom into straight up Willy Wonka's factory. Every inch of the room is dripping in candy and sugar. I'm getting diabetes just from looking at it, and I wanted to go in that room so bad as a kid. I wanted to jump in the chocolate pool and splash around, and Josh went hard on this one. And honestly, I'm pretty sure this scene inspired Hollywood to create the remake Charlie and the Chocolate Factory starring Johnny Depp, which came out only a year after this episode. It's not a coincidence. I also gotta point out how expensive this must have been for Josh to set up. I mean, even just the chocolate milk pool alone. Think about how many gallons of chocolate milk you would need to fill that thing. What was Josh's budget for this? He doesn't even have a job yet at this point, since he gets hired at the premiere in the next episode. So Drake starts playing the Gamesphere right in front of Josh to tempt him into playing as well.
You got the wireless battle pad!
How? How did Drake buy accessories for a game console that doesn't even release for 3 more months? Josh shovels piles of candy into his mouth while Drake reaches level 2 of a video game, and finally, they both can't take it anymore.
Give me that!
They start arguing right away about who lost the bet first, and clearly, Drake caved first. He shoved an entire fistful into his mouth before Josh could even pick up the controller. They attack each other, and both of them straight up launch themselves into the chocolate milk pool and keep fighting. And it's an epic battle that's pretty hard to forget. The parents come running into the room to see what all the yapping and hollering is about, and they start screaming over each other about how the other brother lost the bet. Megan then enters and screams at them both to shut the hell up.
It doesn't matter who caved first. Contract says, whoever caves must dye his hair pink. You both caved, so you both have to do it.
So the parents get on their high horse and tell Drake and Josh that they signed a contract and they have to honor a commitment. Megan then says, "Let me stop you right there, hoes." And she points out that Dad bet on Drake and Mom bet on Josh, and they both lost. The parents start to backtrack what they just said about Drake and Josh, but the boys aren't having it. They use their parents' words against them and say they have to honor a commitment. They cooked them up with that one. In the final scene, we see every member of the family with hot pink hair, which is pretty hilarious, even though they are pretty obvious wigs. And Megan comments that this is the best day of her life. Look, Walter is a weatherman. Is he gonna appear on TV like that? Moments after everyone leaves, Drake pulls off his pink hair, revealing that he was in fact just wearing a wig, while everyone else supposedly dyed their hair. And he comments, "Idiots." And this is pretty interesting, since later on in the show, being painfully stupid is a major part of Drake's character.
It says here they're only available in South America. There's a New Jersey?
I've never seen anything this scary. And I fought in Nam.
Nam?
You know, Vietnam.
Where's that? New Jersey?
But since this episode is the very start of season 2, they were more emphasizing Drake as a cool guy and less as an idiot, which is pretty interesting how the character evolved over time, or devolved, I guess. And for that matter, it's also kind of interesting how Megan doesn't hide her bratty side from her parents in this episode basically at all. She openly enjoys watching Drake and Josh suffer, calling it the best day of her life when they're crashing out, right in front of their mom. And then she takes pleasure in the whole family's hair being dyed pink at the end, again, in front of her parents. This is a pretty big difference from the dynamic we see with Megan in later episodes, like Peruvian Puff Pepper, for example, where she acts all innocent and pretends to be nice and sweet whenever Mom and Dad are around, to make Drake and Josh seem crazy.
Megan!
Oh, so now you guys are gonna try to blame this on your little sister?
And look how sweet she is playing with her dolls.
And by the way, I don't mean to criticize Drake and Josh by pointing any of this out. It's natural for shows and characters to change over time. We see the same thing with Josh, who refers to himself in the third person.
Yeah, you ain't no competition for Joshy.
And also repeats things for emphasis. Emphasis!
Hysterical!
in these older episodes, but almost never does it in the later seasons. Overall, this is a pretty iconic episode of Drake and Josh, and it's one that still hits the spot over 2 decades later. But enough of me yapping. What do you guys think of The Bet? Does it still hit the spot for you, or does it leave you craving a little bit more? Let me know how you're feeling down in the comments, and let's kick it. And if you made it this far, maybe consider subscribing and checking out some of my other videos. I might just try to infiltrate the government if you do. And as always, I gotta give a massive throbbing shout out to the channel members and Patreon members. You guys make me feel more than alive. You make me feel like I've transcended space and time itself. And I got something special for you this time. It's actually a sick trivia question coming your way. Ready? Here's the question. In what episode of Drake and Josh does Eric appear without Craig? Better get to binge watching to solve that one. First channel or Patreon member to comment the correct answer gets a special shout out in the next video. And maybe I'll even give you a wet kiss as well. And if you're still here, if you're still watching, congratulations. Watch out. You might step in a turd this week, so just watch out. All right, thanks for listening.